It's the final round of games in the IRB Nations Cup. We're at the National Stadium in Bucharest, and the South African Kings, who have been something of a surprise in this tournament. They've come up against national teams who are on their way to the World Cup in September and October, and the South African Kings at the moment, who exist but almost don't really have anywhere to play, do they? Because they were established last year as a Super Rugby franchise, but not at the moment playing in Super Rugby. There is the Portugal team, who beat the Argentina Jaguars on the opening day 25-21, but then lost 29-23 to Namibia in the second game. So they are one of a number of sides in this competition who have one victory out of 2 matches. Umzwandile Stick is the captain of the EP, or the South African Kings. Stick, a man who really forged his reputation on the Sevens circuit. But this South Africa Kings team, take a look at it there. There have been 1 or 2 changes. Luke Watson withdrew just hours before kick-off because of sickness. That has meant that Darren Nell has switched round from the blind side flank to number 8. That team caption there is actually incorrect. There will be no Luke Watson playing today. The referee, Pascal Gorzer from France, and it will be the Kings playing from right to left. And you have to say, the team led by Alan Solomons, Jamie, they've been quite outstanding, haven't they? They certainly have. They had a, wouldn't say a blip against Romania because they won the game, but it was much closer than people expected. But they'll certainly want a clean sweep, as it were, in this Nations Cup, and so they'll be going all out. But there's gonna have to temper it a bit because it's being played right in the heat of the day, and it is particularly warm out there. Yes, in this tournament in past years, they've played games in the early 40s, would you believe? The early fixtures happening towards lunchtime. Pedro Leal there at scrum half for Portugal today, a veteran of 49 test matches. But Portugal, who haven't qualified for the World Cup this year, they went in 2007. Just going through on that was Adrito Esteves. The ball going forward. No advantage coming. That's João Correia, the captain of the Portugal side, wearing the bright yellow bonnet. There he is. When we talk about how the South African Kings are looking for the clean sweep, Portugal have had a couple of reasonable results. I mean, to beat the Jaguars, you know, albeit closely, 25-21, and a narrow loss against Namibia, who won this event last year, suggests that there are real signs of improvement within the Portuguese camp. So the Kings have made a change at 9 today. They've reverted to, there he is, Bullet Abrahams, who played at scrum half in the opening game against Georgia. He was replaced by the former Blue Bull, Danny Farson, for the second match. But it's back to Abrahams. He'll be partnering Louis Stradham. Stradham, who, I know it's a slightly disparaging way to refer to somebody, but he really is a bit of a journeyman in fly half terms in South African rugby, but he has been a smart acquisition. There's Stradham, the left-footed kick, hoisting it up high for Wayne Stevens, and Sianda Gray to get after it. Picked up there by Stevens, trying to find his number 8, Darren Nell, but the ball going forward. But whenever they're on the front foot, this Kings side look dangerous. And it was a good kick too. Francisco Sela, the Portuguese fullback, unable to deal with it. Good pressure on from the likes of McBean, but there's the ball going forward. Advantage, had that been collected by Darren Nell, it would have been interesting and the advantage would have continued. But I think the scrummage area, the South African Kings will probably be very comfortable in, and they won't mind this at all. So there is Abrahams with the put-in again on the loose head side. Jaco Engels, the former Leopard, also played rugby for Boland. That's the second province in the Western Cape, and look at the enormous power, real nudge that the South African scrummage is getting there on the Portuguese, and simply they forced the penalty. Yeah, the prop lost his binding. I think it was Bar Junior. The loose head prop lost his binding. First chance for Stridham, just slot one between the posts, but the South African Kings will be very comfortable knowing they're going to have huge ascendancy in the set piece. Yes, here is Louis Stradham. Started off his rugby in Velcom, which is his old hometown. Played there for the Griffins, who are one of the weaker sides in the Currie Cup in South Africa. He's played for the Bulls, for the Falcons, also for the Lions up in Johannesburg. Left-footed kick up. playing just his third match for his new club. And Stratham slots it for a man of his quality. That not particularly complicated. And the Kings, who are seeking a clean sweep of victories here at this competition, have the early lead.
Well, Portugal might have to rethink a bit here. They've got to rethink also that their concentration level is going to have to be tip-top, because forward passes and knock-ons and things like that will result in a South African put into the scrum, and we've seen that South Africa Kings will relish that opportunity.
Good hanging restart, but we were talking about it time and time again in the other game we did on this final day, and the inability of players to gather restarts. That time the culprit, Jacques Potgieter, who's just stepped up into the side following an illness to Luke Watson. So they're put in from Leal, picked up by the number 8, Jacques Leroux. That sounds a rather South African name. It is. He's a former Cape Townian. Taken on by Peke. Up towards the Kings 22, Leal feeding his fly half Cabral. The defence is good though. The tackle there from Wayne Stevens for the Kings. 5 minutes gone. The referee's blown his whistle. It's going to be a penalty, and it is a Portugal ball.
Well, first time Portugal have really had the ball, and they kept it, which is something. They'll probably have a shot for goal. Pedro Cabral at fly half for Portugal is not a bad goal kicker. Well, been pretty good in the tournaments thus far. Captain, number 2. Had no hesitation in pointing to the posts. It is warm. There's certainly going to be the water breaks after 20 minutes, and they'll certainly need them, these players. No shade on the pitch. A little bit on the main stand side, but that's it. And not a lot of wind. You can see in the background there's not a lot of movement.
So Cabral, 32 test matches to his name. Made 2 appearances in that Rugby World Cup in 2007. So can he square things up? Cabral was just flirting with the right hand upright, but just stayed out. But a kicker of his quality would have expected to land that.
Yeah, he would. No turn on the ball whatsoever. Went straight as a die, that ball. So South Africa Kings get away with one, really.
So it's still 3 points to nil, the Kings lead.
1-0. You are back.
So Hannes Franklin, the former Pumas captain up at Witbank, who played against the Kings in the final game, or the relegation promotion match last season between the Pumas and the Kings, a match the Pumas won. Driven on there, just a couple of metres out here. Abrahams has it, just checking on the position of his fly half, but the Kings keeping it tight. And it's out wide, and Jaco Engels has gone in for the opening try. The pressure has finally told. And a fella who, would you believe, started his rugby career in the centre. Yes, I know we chuckle, but it is a matter of fact. But I think he's probably broadened out a little bit, hasn't he? And now the loose-head prop started his career at the Leopards, and here, well, all part of this regeneration of rugby in the Eastern Cape.
Well, it was Peke who was supposedly covering across for Portugal. His opposite number, really. And he misses a slides out of the tackle and just gets it in the corner. Should have done better, really, Peke, to push him into touch or make it a lot harder for Engels to get over.
He is actually a Namibian, and interesting that his country always Stratham bounces that back off the right and upright, so it is just a 5-point score. But Jaco Engels, who, well, you'd have thought he might have been needed by Namibia at the World Cup, but he's not part of the Namibia squad here. so it's safe to assume he won't be going to New Zealand. And this side who are still participating in what is essentially the second tier of competition in the Currie Cup in South Africa. Gives you some sort of idea when they can take on national sides like Georgia and Romania and beat both of them. There's Stick, the captain.
Coolly done out of defence by the Kings. Well rehearsed, no doubt, on the training field. Don't see many captains at fullback these days, do you?
No, that's right. You think about going back a few years, there were one or two in international rugby, but these days it doesn't tend to be the fashion.
I can't see this game getting quick with the heat of the day and what have you, and probably won't suit Portugal that much either. But they've got a chance to stay in and around the 22 of South African Kings and put some pressure on, make them think about defences.
Well, Correa missed his man there, but it's gone to hand here for Portugal. And that's out of Correa, the captain, to within 2 or 3 metres here. And you can see getting all over the ball there is Devin Oosthuizen, the open side.
He's lucky maybe not to get yellow for that. That's deliberate, you know, a couple of metres out. I know many a referee who would have just gone into their pocket for that one, because there's a ruck formed. He's just gone straight over the top and taken it away from Portugal, who were looking good. So Oosthuizen's got away with one, I would argue, but the Kings haven't got away from their own try line as Portugal try and keep the pressure on.
Well, let's see if Correa, the captain, a doctor by profession, can find his man in the line out here. Portugal 8 points down. That line out not really contested by the Kings, and the drive on here 4 metres out, and you can see that man Oosthuizen again making a real nuisance of himself, and he's picked out again. Surely this time.
He's got away with it twice. And what's he's created, they're just going to do exactly the same again. Kick it in the corner. I'm not sure Oosthuizen will get third time lucky, but I'm not sure that Gauzère, the French referee, even said next time when you're going to have 10 minutes in the bin. But unlucky for Portugal, to be fair, because that was a far better chance, because it was off the floor. The ball was off the floor.
So Correa again, centre of the line. And the Kings try line under siege here. The pick-up out wide, and the try, Eduardo Acosta. Well worked by the Portuguese. And it's one of the veterans, Acosta, who turns 33 in a couple of weeks' time. Neat pass there from the captain.
Well, there was no contest there between him and Abrahams, the King scrum half, who was covering across quite where Morai was, the left winger, I don't know, but to leave a big lock pretty much on his own, a couple of metres from the line, was not clever from the Kings. Portugal, first time in the 22, get points on the board. Fair credit to them. There's that little bit of shade I was referring to. I'll give it about 6 metres of shade, maybe 10.
Interesting to see what happens to that shade as the afternoon goes on. Presumably a little bit more of the pitch will be in shadow. So here is Pedro Cabral. We've already seen him miss one attempt. This rather more difficult, and I'm afraid he's not quite snap hooked it, but it's well wide of the post.
The score remains Portugal 5, South African Kings 8.
1 and 0.
So the Kings leading by 11 points to 5. There's Franklin to the middle of the line. caught by Ross Kennedy, the son of the forwards coach, Adrian Kennedy. And this is well organised. It's Hannes Franklin who has the ball tucked under his left arm. Being guided there by his scrum half, Buller Abrahams, up to the 22.
This is where the Kings have definitely got the ascendancy, isn't it? In these forward power, they're definitely more technically adept with a catch and drive from line out and at the scrum time, as we've seen, and that's going to be a penalty as Uva comes miles offside. Number 7 for Portugal. He can't be giving him a yellow card, surely, after what Oosthuizen did. He set the tone now, you see, the referee. If he'd given Oosthuizen a yellow card, players would have known you can't do it. As it is now, do it's only going to cost us a penalty.
If I go back to a top 14 game this season, which was refereed by Pascal Gauzer at the Stade de France, Dimitri Sharshevsky, Jean-Philippe Genevois, the match between Toulon and Stade Francais, the two hookers. There was a clear headbutt about 6 feet in front of Pascal Gauzer. He did nothing.
Who was the home team?
It was Stade Francais. And Sharshevsky was cited for it, and he was given a 10-day suspension. But nothing actually happened on the field. Franklin, caught there by Wayne van Heerden, a recent acquisition. Former Sharks Super 12 player. And spinning over the line. And the second try for the Kings. And who's going to get up? Well, it could well be Clint Newland. Newland is the last man to his feet. And it's the former Otago Highlander.
Well, it's not often in the game you see both props scoring from one team, but the Kings have worked out exactly where the Portuguese weakness is. It's in the tight, in the catch and drive area. They can't arrest the charge they're putting on. 2 tries from 2 props of the same team.
And you must say it's a real feather in the cap for Alan Solomons. There's Phil Mack, the fitness trainer, you can see there with the white bib on. That trio, Adrian Kennedy, Phil Mack, Alan Solomons, they were together with the Western Province and the Stormers in South Africa about 13 or 14 years ago, and they've largely followed one another around, been to Ulster at, well, that was 11 years or so ago now, wasn't it? And then a brief stint at Northampton, which wasn't particularly successful, and they've now combined again in Port Elizabeth to look after this side, who still have ambitions of playing Super Rugby. And Stratham, very sure indeed with that left foot. And the lead is stretched here by the Kings.
Well, he does strike it well, doesn't he, Stratham? He's a very good kicker of a rugby ball. Good distance, good technique. He's always had good technique. Very simple method, great follow through. And he's hit the post as well, so he's got his boots on today.
So 18 points to 5. Abrahams. That's for McBean to chase after. That was well gathered by Portugal. And they've still got possession. There's Uva. Kick from Serra. Stick is underneath it. Spins it wide. Out here is Marais. Oh, but it's lost forward, gathered by Estevez. And the referee will come back for the knock-on, which came out of the hands of the left wing, Aspi Marais. There's Wayne van Heerden, who's just joined the franchise after spending 2 years in Japan, which certainly financially, where rugby players are concerned, it's fairly lucrative, isn't it, these days?
It's a haven. It's a monetary haven, and
was it
this is
George
what
Smith going for a better.
Yeah, and he's not alone. All's Muliaina's going there after World Cup, the New Zealand fullback, and then there'll be a lot going there after World Cup. This is always a moving year with the World Cup. Here go Portugal, though, down the right-hand side.
That's Estevez over halfway, the scrum half Leal. And the referee's blown his whistle. Penalty to Portugal. And just down on his knees is Peque, the tight head prop. He was the man who took the ball at speed. Well, Pedro Leal, 49 test matches Leal. Unusual combination, but he's spent most of his time internationally playing his rugby at fullback, which is where he played during the 2007 Rugby World Cup. Scrum half and fullback combination. So almost half time, and the Kings 2 wins out of 2, and they've got a very handy advantage here. The captain Correa, palm back, there's Leal to his fly half Cabral. Making the tackle was Pocheta. Well handled there by Peque. Good step, there are plenty of red jerseys, and through goes Juan Severino. So 2 tries. You were saying, Jeremy, about 2 props scoring the opening 2 tries for the South Africans. Well, it's the 2 locks who've got the tries for Portugal.
Well, it was a great line by Belanga, the blindside flanker number 6. He made that, he got the space, but to be fair to Severino, he attacked it with real pace. He really put some gas on, and certainly Franklin didn't want to know, the hooker for the Kings, and under the sticks he goes. So it should be a formality for the conversion as well. And Portugal, to be fair to them, when they get in the 22 of the Kings, they score.
So I think the Kings realise that they're still in the game here. This Nations Cup is yet to be won, and Cabral from straight in front will narrow the gap to 6 points, and just 90 seconds or so to go before half-time.
Well, just a little reminder to the Kings that they're not going to win this competition quite yet. They're going to have to do it over the full 80 minutes. And great credit to Portugal, because they are really struggling up front in the physical stakes. They can't match the power of the Kings. Cabral just knocks that one over very easily. And we come back to a restart, and what will happen here?
Straight, and plenty of hang time on that one. Well, it's gathered confidently. And you can just see running into his own player there. That was Laurent Bellong who got in the way of the France-based Portugal international. Umzwandili stick being caught by Estevez. Estevez, who you will have probably seen on the 7 circuit. There is the hooker, Franklin. Half a minute to go. Abrahams, the scrum half. There's stick in the line. That was intended, I think, for Siander Gray, but the ball went forward. Siander Gray's had a good tournament, hasn't he? Hat-trick in the opening game in the centre, and then he picked up 1 try on the wing against Romania. Back into the centre here.
Good defence by Portugal, to be fair. They've made their tackles. The midfield, Oliveira and Murray, they've certainly made their presence felt. Estevez coming off his wing to do a few defensive duties as well. However, they don't want put-ins to the scrum particularly, because the try-scoring machines that are the Kings props will certainly take them on, but they've got this one away, and they know it's half-time.
So running to touch there by Pedro Leal. It's half-time in the match, which could well decide the fate of this IRB Nations Cup. And the South Africa Kings have got off to a wonderful start. Well, they've seen their lead dwindle just a little bit. Tries from the 2 Portuguese locks, but the South Africans are in front.
The IRC is ready to roll in Belgium. The local flyers hog the home support on the tight country lanes round Ypres. Another stern rally challenge. IRC Ypres Rally, Friday night, live on Eurosport 2.
Wednesday night. Football, soccer, call it what you like. It's the same great game all around the globe. And in America's Gold Cup, it has its own local spice. 12 teams from Canada to Panama, including big guns Mexico and the USA, play the beautiful game to conquer all. Gold Cup football semi-finals, Wednesday night, live on Eurosport 2.
So I wonder what Alan Solomons and Adrian Kennedy were saying to the EP Kings at the end of 40 minutes there. They certainly enjoyed the balance of play, but they saw their try line crossed on 2 occasions by Portugal, who, remember, beat the Argentina Jaguars on the opening day 25-21 before losing narrowly to Namibia. So the Nations Cup isn't won yet, is it?
No, certainly not. However, Portugal have got to get the ball away from these physical, tight forwards of the Kings. They've got to play a much wider game, even if they only get 40% of the ball, which is all they can reasonably expect. But little bonuses like that will certainly help their cause. If they can retain the possession in the contact area, they have an outside chance, I would say.
The ball going forward off the hand of Wayne van Heerden, but they've turned it, and the referee said advantage was over. So there comes the clearance, and chasing after it is Baldwin McBean. The fullback just gets it away in time. That was Carl Murray, the former Kiwi. Stradham. Here's Mzwandili's stick. That's Morer. Just getting caught a little high there by Estevez, but he's got through the tackle eventually made by Murray. There's Stick in at first receiver to Stevens. Good step from the centre. Well, it was a cheeky and clever little offload, but perhaps not so clever because it just went straight into the hands of Cabral. There's Leal, the scrum half. They're certainly being enterprising, trying to run the ball out of their own 22. That was taken into the contact by one of the try scorers, Acosta.
2-1-0.
So the Kings leading by 18 points to 12. Just a little more than half an hour remaining in this decisive match in the Nations Cup. The South African Kings, who came here, I suppose you describe them almost as one of the invitation sides. It's intended for the development of rugby, particularly for the second-tier nations. The likes of the host Romania, Georgia, preparing for the World Cup, but they're being shown up here by a side who can't even get into Super Rugby.
Indeed so, and they've changed their tactics too. I think in the first half would have found that Stridham would have gone for goal there, but he's knocked it down well into the 22, to be fair, to set up a line out, and I suspect we'll see a catch and drive, because certainly that's how a couple of both tries have been created, from a catch and drive from the line out.
Well, that's Federico Oliveira, and it's the replacement hook here, Frank Hearn, just confirming the line out call. That's Potgieter at the tail. It's caught by Nell. Nell, the replacement for Luke Watson. And that is Potgieter, you can see, with the ball underneath his arm. And in a moment, he may well pop out. There he is, Potgieter. And he's got the try. And it's a young fella who started his rugby career with the old Mighty Elephants, which is what they used to call them in Port Elizabeth, before going up the coast to Durban, where he played Vodacom Cup rugby for the Sharks. But now back in his old hometown and scoring the third try, and the EP Kings edging ever closer towards this Nations Cup title.
Well, we said it in the first half, they do know where the Portuguese weakness is, and any line out they get 10 metres, 15 metres out from the Portuguese line, that's what they're going to do. They're going to catch and drive and rumble over, and all 3 tries have come from that exact scenario. And Portugal have just got no way of withholding them or withstanding that physical pressure that the Kings are putting on.
So Louis Stradom, now 31, and seeing his career reborn after a period at the Cheetahs. He made the move from Bloemfontein just a couple of weeks ago, and there is the try scorer. Now,
scorer try and get taken off.
Well, on a hot day like this, I suppose that could be perceived to be a bit of a reward. But it's a perfect day for place kicking. Not too much wind in the trees, although you can see the flags are fluttering a little bit, but good surface, bright sunny day, the ball will fly far.
Oh, Cabral's off too.
Well, there's the restart. Well gathered by Nell, the number 8. Abrahams. That's for Oosthuizen to chase. Gathered by Leroux. Oosthuizen misses his man. Hearn doesn't. Just inside the Portugal half. There it is for Leal. Taken forward by Esteves. You can see the replacement there. Pumlani Nodika has come on for the Kings. Inside the last half hour, South Africans have also made changes in the front row. Stick, always a player who plays with plenty of time. And ever present in the Springbok Sevens squad in recent years, who've had so much success in the World Series events. So the South Africa Kings with a significant advantage. There's one of the try scorers for the Portuguese, Juan Severino. Made 1 appearance for them in the World Cup campaign in France 4 years ago. So Hearn to Van Heerden. And that well-orchestrated drive here being held up at the moment by the Portuguese. They'll be looking for the ball. Danny Farson, you can see wearing 20. He's the replacement scrum half, having replaced Bulla Abrahams.
Shirt's gone flying to the right-hand side. One of the Portuguese shirts has come off, but this is the repeat of the tactic. Now they may go wide.
Oh, and there's Stick, and Stick feeds it on to Siander Gray. And Siander Gray, who got a hat-trick on the opening day, picked up 1 try against Romania in the second match, has got his 5th of the tournament. And I think it would be fair to say now that this Nations Cup trophy is safe for the Kings.
Well, Stick showed great hands, just drew the last man, and Gray got over despite the attentions of his opposite number. But it was nice to see after the catch and drive from the line out, they went wide. And it proved to be the right decision. It's good hands, especially the last pass from the captain, who now has been entrusted with the goal-kicking duties, it would appear.
So, Umzwandile Stick. The other member of the coaching staff who we haven't mentioned today, David Maitzer, former Zimbabwe international, played for quite a long while for Border in East London, which is another part of the EP Kings franchise, along with Southwestern Districts in George. Mater, who looks after the back division. So Stick from out wide. And I tell you what, a rare place kicker, but there he is, converting the try by Siander Gray.
So it always pays to have a couple of goal kickers in your team. He strikes a nice ball too. It was going very high. It's gone above the posts.
And certainly it's good to see, isn't it, that the resurgence in rugby in the Eastern Province, because in days gone by, a regular stopover for the Lions and other touring teams, but been in the doldrums a bit in recent seasons. So we're inside the last 8 minutes. The Kings with a 10-point lead.
Well, Portugal very much a beaten side now, aren't they? It's just a question of trying to get a bit more credibility on the board, see if they can get a 7-pointer to close this gap a bit, because half-time was only 18-12. So in this half, they're 16-0 down. So, sorry, 14. Can I do my maths? 14-0 down in this half.
Well, it looks like Pumlani Nadikida, who's down getting some treatment. There's the replacement hooker, Frank Hearn. He's certainly looking in some discomfort, isn't he? 32 points to 12. This Kings side will return to South Africa, playing the Currie Cup in the essentially the second tier of the Currie Cup, after having lost that promotion relegation playoff game at the end of last season to the Mpumalanga Pumas, for whom Hannes Franklin was their captain. Franklin led the Pumas to victory in that match, and then promptly said he was moving down to Port Elizabeth to play for the side he'd just beaten.
Just changing the subject somewhat, I reckon your shadows doubled over the course of the game. Just to give you a barometer for later on with the other games to follow, and that shadow was just a lot cooler than standing in that sun.
Yes, this is the first of 3 games on the final day, but the Kings, by virtue of those 2 victories, will have wrapped up the title, whatever happens in the 2 games after this. You can watch the highlights of the match between Romania and the Argentina Jaguars early this evening on Eurosport. But every precaution being taken there with the injured player. Well, I suppose while they are stretching the injured player off, time maybe to consider. You can see they're just getting caught under bodies, but I think we stress that every precaution is taken. He's clearly taken a bang on the head and the neck. Picked up at the base there by Nell. That was passed out by Stevens. There's Stick, and coming in on the right wing was McBean. And to Sianda Gray. Well, I tell you what, over the course of 3 days of 3 matches, that I'm sure, if not the best, certainly one of the best tries of the entire week. Good hands there from Stick.
And look at the amount of support players inside. He's got 1, 2, 3 players that could have easily received that final pass for the try, but as he's shown throughout the tournament, Sianda Gray just pops up in the right place at the right time, and he's got a bit of gas too, so there's no way he was going to be stopped. But good to see the hands through the back line, a little swagger as he goes between the posts, and isn't he happy?
Yes, a little bit of showboating from the man scoring his 6th try of this tournament. And Mzwandile Stick will make it a 7-point score, and the SA Kings will be within a point of 40. So there it is. Pascal Gauzer blows his whistle, and we're into the final few seconds of the game that will prove decisive in terms of the fate of this Nations Cup trophy.
Well, they've been utterly dominant in the second half of the South African Kings. 3 converted tries, no response at all from the Portuguese. They, unfortunately, gave their all in the first half. They've not really been in it whatsoever. And that try is a fitting finale, I suppose, for the South African Kings to round off their tournament and receive some silverware.
So Costa with the restart. And the clock is into the red numbers, so all the South Africans have to do is to put the ball into touch, time really to reflect. But it has been a tremendous performance, hasn't it? There is the final whistle, 39 points to 12.
Well, they've had it all over. They certainly hit the Portuguese physically up front in the first half, as we saw with those 2 tries by the respective props, and nice to see in the second half going much wider.
So the South African Kings are the champions, their 3rd win out of 3.